Well, hi there. I'm wearing this today inside my house just to remind everybody that that's the norm now, and we really do need to take care of ourselves and take care of the people around us. So, how are you today? We got a lot of interesting messages about Hamilton because, of course, last Friday was when it debuted in its video version on Disney Plus. And it really is such a stunning piece of work, and people had lots of good questions about it. I hope a lot of you took advantage of the interview that we posted with Aaron Clemens and Julius B. Thomas III. Julius has been playing Hamilton in San Francisco, and he was the alternate for Lin Manuel Miranda when the production went to Puerto Rico, although Lin Manuel decided to do all of the performances in Puerto Rico. So Julius just watched there. But he has played the role extensively and had really interesting things to say about it. And Aaron covered all three of the sisters on Broadway and then went on tour as Eliza and then finally came back to the Broadway company, again covering the three sisters. And she had a lot of interesting things to say too. Amanda Michelle wrote this week, the use of lighting in Hamilton is stunning and so intentional. Well, you have good eyes, Amanda. How does a director go about selecting? No, I'm sorry. How much of the lighting choice is the director's input, and how much is left to the lighting designer? Well, the thing about musical theater is it is probably the most collaborative art form that we have. It requires a lot of people to get on the same page. And many musicals have been sunk because one of the key creators just had a different viewpoint on the show than the others did, and it didn't come together in quite enough of a unified fashion. I think the really remarkable thing about Hamilton is how all of it is of a piece. That the lighting looks like the music sounds, that the costumes move the way the choreography is designed, that everything about it shows that there was a tremendous unity of purpose. And I think that has to come from its creator, Lin Manuel Miranda, who spent years working on this and talking about it. But it also goes back to the fact that he has collaborators who work with him on a regular basis. Thomas Kail, director, Andy Blankenbuehler, choreographer, and Alex Lacamoire, musical supervisor and director. And these people worked with him on his first show in the Heights, which he began writing when he was in college. And by the time he was a sophomore, they got a production of it up at school. That was the year 2000. And by 2005, they had a presentation of it ready to go at a regional theater, and 2006 off Broadway, and 2007 on Broadway in time for his 28th birthday. That's a very fast trajectory, but even that, took from 1999 to 2007. So getting a show on can take a long period of time. But during all of the gestation of In the Heights, Lin Manuel Miranda was working with these same people. And when that went as well as it did, they began looking for other projects. Lin Manuel Miranda was on his first vacation from In the Heights, and he happened to read Ron Chernow's book about Alexander Hamilton. It's about 600 pages, and he suddenly realized that it was an immigrant story, and it was a story that hadn't been told as far as he could tell. There had been a play in something like 1927, but there was really nothing about him that had been dramatized to any real degree. So it was great material for drama, and he saw the potential in it. And once again, Thomas Kail directed, and Alex Lacamoire worked with him on the music. And when it came time to stage it, they brought in Andy Blankenbuehler. In the interview with Erin Clemens, you'll see that she talks about the choreography, that even the intake of breath is all part of what's written into the script. And it's unusual to find a piece that is coordinated quite as beautifully as that. Amanda Michelle also asked, the choreography so intricate. How does a director go about selecting a choreographer they believe will do the material justice? I spoke about their long time collaboration. You'll notice if you go through the playbills at Music Theater Wichita that you'll see some people return again and again as director or as choreographer. Mark Madama, Linda Goodrich, Peggy Hickey. These are all people who have come here, usually on a recommendation or that we worked with them at another theater somewhere. And we find that they can work in the very tight schedule we have and remain kind and remain supportive. That's really important to us here. But we have to get on a good product with only 10 days rehearsal. Edward Sturm asked how the schedule that we have compares to what a Broadway show might have. Well, apart from the long gestation of writing a Broadway show, which can sometimes be very short, one of the shows we're trying to get on in our next season is Something Rotten. And this was a show that two fellas who've written a lot of television work decided they had an idea and they put it together, and it was supposed to go to Seattle to the Fifth Avenue Theater, which has had good luck launching Broadway musicals like Hairspray and Catch Me If You Can. And so they got a workshop together in New York in 2014, and it was supposed to go to Seattle for their season in 2015, and then see what needed to be worked out and maybe come to Broadway in 2016. Well, they did a workshop of it in New York before taking it to Seattle, and everybody who saw it just thought it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen, and it was ready, and a Broadway show opened. So they skipped Seattle and brought it to Broadway in January of 2015. That happened faster than any of them would have thought. Anyway, apart from the gestation process of writing a new musical, normally when a Broadway show is cast, they may do some readings to see if the cast they have is right, if they can work out the material. Then they might do a workshop that is not open to the public, but they'll have people whom they respect come and give their evaluations. And those can go on for a limited number of weeks. But then when you actually go into production for a Broadway show, it's standard to rehearse for 6 to 8 weeks and then to move into the first theater, whether it's the theater you're going to be in on Broadway or maybe a theater in some other town that you want to try it first. You move into the theater, and traditionally there's at least a week of technical work. And when Amanda Michelle was talking about the lighting in Hamilton being so specific, I can imagine as they worked through the show, they might spend a whole day working on the lighting focus and only get 10 or 15 minutes of the show accomplished in that amount of time because everything is so specific to each moment in the show. So you get a week or so of technical rehearsals, and then it will open to a paying audience in previews, and that can go for 3 weeks to 4 weeks before you open to the critics. So that whole process for a Broadway show from its first official rehearsal on through its official opening night would normally be 10, 11, 12 weeks. In that amount of time in the summer, we have put on all 5 shows and torn them apart and taken the scenery back to the warehouse and started planning next year's season. We have to work so much faster. So our and the other thing is too, when these folks are trying to get a Broadway show on for the first time, they're just trying to get a really good show on. When we work in the summer, we're trying to get on 5 really good shows, but we're also trying to make sure that they are learning processes for all of the students who are involved with them, the college students who are part of our professional company, the high school students who are in the apprentice program, and the teen performers, and everybody who's involved with us. And we bring in Broadway people in the leadership capacities and in the acting capacities who hopefully are good role models for the people that will be working with them. Sharon Pedroja asked how far ahead we work in the summer. Well, we actually work ahead all year trying to understand what shows are going to look like. Is it scenery we have before that we're going to reuse or adapt? Is it scenery we're going to rent from elsewhere? Is it scenery we're going to have our designers create and our builders build and our painters paint? How many of these things will we be creating? We try to get all of that in place and then hire the folks whose specific skills match up with those. Over the course of this many years, as I started to say earlier, we have choreographers who have a real gift for a certain style, who we know can really do a wonderful tap show or really tell stories with a major ballet. But actually, you'll find a lot of our directors and choreographers and director choreographers are really good at all of those things and can work in a lot of styles because they are basically just really good storytellers. And they will talk to the other members of the artistic team on the phone and now these days on Zoom before we get into the first day of rehearsals and really make sure that everybody is on the same wavelength, that this show is going to look a certain way, that these are the things that are really important. They'll tell the designer, these are the numbers that need the most stage space. So when we design Molly Brown's parlor or we design the Phantom's ballroom, these are the spaces that we have the most room. These are the scenes that have the least number of people in them. They can be smaller or shallower. All those kind of logistics are worked out ahead of time before we start building them. It's a fascinating process. It never grows old, and sometimes we'll revisit a show after 10 years and take an entirely different approach to it because we learned things the last time, or we simply want to do a new kind of look for it. Or our world has changed and we want to take advantage of new technologies like LED screens that we used in Freaky Friday and will be using in Greece next year. Facebook, Cody Christ, what does the planning look like before the actors come to rehearsals for each company? Well, we have one group of company performers we try to hire for the summer. In our previous season, our people had to sing well enough for The Sound of Music, dance ballet for An American in Paris, be able to do the Fosse style for Chicago, and all of the 1970s Broadway styles for a chorus line. And ideally, many of them would be Latino or Latina and actors of color for In the Heights. And so we were able to put together a company last year who could fulfill most of those jobs in all five of the shows. We spent a lot of time figuring out what roles can overlap from show to show and then looking for these really gifted people who can come for the summer. Then we hire a few Broadway guest stars for leading roles in each one. And they show up on that Monday to start with everybody, and 10 days later we try to have a show. We only rehearse 7 hours each day, so it's not like these people work round the clock. So on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of that first week, we work 7 hours with an hour and 15-minute lunch break, and then the evenings are free for people to go over what they learned or go bowling or forget about what they did. And then on Saturday of that first week, in the afternoon, right after lunch, we run through the whole show in the rehearsal room to see if we've learned everything. Then the actors go away until Sunday evening. But on a Sunday during the day, our orchestra comes in, they go through the music for the first time. All of our scenery is loaded onto the stage. The lighting designer starts working with the director and the stage managers to see how the lighting may work. Then on Sunday night, our resident company comes in and we space out the big numbers on the set for the first time because up to then they've only been in the rehearsal rooms. On Monday of performance week, everybody comes in at noon. We work a little while in the rehearsal room. Then from 2 to 5, the orchestra comes and gets in the orchestra pit. Our actors go get up on stage and we run through all the musical numbers on stage. No scenery, no props, but we get through everything. And then Monday night, we start that process that Hamilton and any other show had of putting the costumes on the actors, of fixing the lighting. But instead of having 15 minutes worth of show done at the end of a full day, by the end of our evening rehearsal on Monday, we hope to have all of Act 1 finished. We come in at noon, and then from noon to 5, we finish all of Act 2. And then on Tuesday night of performance week at 7 o'clock, the actors come back. We do some extra little notes. And then at 8 o'clock, we have an invited audience and we do a dress rehearsal. The audience goes away and we take note of what needs to be fixed. Everybody comes in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesday. We work from 2 to 5. And then 7:30 that night, we open the show. Thursday afternoon, our resident company comes in and learns music for the upcoming show. So that's what it works like here in the summer. It's much faster, but as Kelly O'Hara or any of our Broadway alumni will tell you, if you can do a show on our schedule and have it look decent and maybe have some real quality, you can certainly work in New York where things don't have to happen quite that fast. I hope that answered some of your questions today. I'm sorry I couldn't take all of them, and please keep writing, and please watch the Aaron Clemens concert, which starts airing this Friday. It's free to all the members of our Spotlight Society, and if you're not one of those but you want to see Aaron from Hamilton do a really wonderful program, it's $20 ticket, and your whole household can enjoy it. And then we have lots more surprises coming up in the weeks ahead. Thanks so much for joining us today.